Okay.
Hi Miguel and Noor, you're not with us right now, so we've brought the lesson to you. Basically what we'll do is myself and Alvaro, we're going through the techniques, literary terms. It's a main thing that you guys are struggling with. So we're going to basically go through these techniques, have a discussion. All these techniques on the literary terms, I've sent you given you the sheets before, you've got printouts of them. They're really, really important that you know them and you're able to use them. So Alvaro and I are just going to go through the main ones and they give examples of how they're used in Othello. So, we've obviously got ambivalent, simultaneous coexistence of opposing feelings or attitudes. Okay, quite a few characters suffer from that. Alvaro, give me a couple.
Iago.
Okay, how?
The audience doesn't know if he loves or hates Catharsis, for example.
Okay, excellent. Absolutely. So we know that Iago is jealous of Castro's audience. We do know that, but certainly he shows ambivalence. He shows it both sides. Absolutely. Ambiguity. Obviously, there's numerous ideas in Othello which feature ambiguity. You can go through and think about that yourselves. Anagnosis, the moment of recognition by a character of an important truth. Can you think of any moments in Othello? Where's that comes in?
Yeah, in the last act, when Othello realizes that everything Iago has told him was a lie.
Okay, excellent, superb. An aside, a remark spoken by a character in a play which is shared with the audience but unheard by some or all of the characters on stage. As I said earlier on, it's predominantly there are characters who wouldn't hear an aside. It would make it obvious if it was. Why does a writer use asides then?
To create dramatic irony.
To create dramatic irony? Yeah, quite possibly. Why?
Because if the audience knows something about the scene or the character that the other characters ignore.
Okay. And a soliloquy, how is that different from a soliloquy then?
In a soliloquy, there are no other characters in the scene.
On the stage, okay. So soliloquy, no other characters on the stage. The character is speaking essentially to the audience. It gives them their innermost thoughts and feelings. And Alvaro, what's the byproduct, if you like, of a soliloquy on the audience?
Creates dramatic irony.
Creating dramatic irony, okay? Very, very important, and it also allows us to empathise and know more about a character than simply just through the action that we see on stage. Okay. Blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter, the staple form of Shakespeare's plays. Most of Shakespeare's plays obviously are written in blank verse. When you're looking at soliloquies, especially or monologues, you want to be looking at a blank verse. Is it rhymed? If it's rhymed, why is it rhymed? Remember, higher up characters tend to use more flowery, poetic, royal, regal kind of language, as we see Othello at the beginning. But we see the change in language by the end of the play. We see Othello now using quite rough base language, mimicking Iago's. Remember, Iago didn't get the promotion. He's not quite as high up there as other characters, and we see that reflected in Othello's speech. Okay. Caesura again, deliberate break in the line of a verse signified with punctuation, thinking about what effect that has on the audience, what effect it has on the words being isolated, if you like. Climax, the moment of intensity to which a series of actions has been leading. What would you say the climax of Othello is?
Either the assassination of Desdemona by Othello, or the moment where Othello realizes that everything is a lie.
Yeah, you could argue both. There's quite a few mini climaxes, I would say, in Othello, and that would certainly be it. Either Desdemona's death, or like you say, the idea of Othello's realisation. The denouement, probably more Othello's realisation, I would argue. The climax really being, starting with before the Willow song through to Desdemona's death, arguably, would be that part there. Okay, let me just do this. Colloquial, informal language of speech rather than of writing. Again, you see Iago using a lot of colloquialisms. Denouement, as I said, the final stages of the plot, really Othello's realisation of what he's done. His anagnosis moment is when he realises it, and that's used in the denouement. Dramatic irony, lots of examples. In most of language that arises an emotional response from the reader or audience, make sure that you're commenting on that, okay? End stop, simply a line of verse. All of Shakespeare is written in verse with a full stop or a comma or punctuation at the end. Again, you're now able to analyse and think, why has Shakespeare used that? Why has he done that? Again, enjambment, all these poetic techniques you want to be using, especially if it's a speech, a monologue or a soliloquy that is being given by a character, or given by Shakespeare for a character. You really need to be going in there, you must be looking at the poetic techniques, simile, metaphor, alliteration, assonance, enjambment, caesura, end-stop lines, feminine endings, their rhythm, feet, meter. All of this you need to be looking at. You all know how there's plenty of notes on it. Make sure that you're able to analyse these bits of poetry within it. It's poetry that Shakespeare's essentially writing in. Enjambment, yeah, you have no punctuation at the end of a line. Feminine ending, an unstressed syllable at the end of a line of verse, so therefore it can mess with the iambic pentameter. Foot, you know, genre, form or type of writing. Hyperbole, deliberate exaggeration for effect. For example, he asked me 1,000 times. Oops, sorry. Oh no. Rubbish. There we go. Iambic pentameter. Remember, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Okay. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Unstressed, stressed, and so on. Very tight. You want to be looking carefully. If Shakespeare starts changing it and you have it breaks the iambic pentameter, what's that trying to suggest? What's that suggesting about the character, insecurities, and so on and so forth. Imagery, your figurative descriptive language, all your similes, metaphors and everything. In medias res, the beginning, a scene or a chapter in the middle of an event or a dialogue. Can you think of any examples of that?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, Act 4.
Go on.
It starts with Othello commanding his soldiers.
Second, sorry, you're not being clear.
It's Othello commanding his soldiers. It starts in the middle of the scene.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you could say that. You can also argue that, especially the scene where Othello goes to kill Desdemona, is one of the longest scenes in Shakespeare's plays, and that obviously you'd argue why Shakespeare hasn't used in medias res, why has he continued it, why has he not broken into the scene, and obviously it's to create that impact, to create that suspense, tension, it's non-stop, it's unbearable. Very quickly, irony, you should obviously know what irony is as well. Metaphor, motif, recurring literary, verbal or structural device which develops or reminds the audience of a theme. So for example, honest, the idea of honesty, you go on the different interpretations of honesty and what honesty actually means. Remember, honesty doesn't just mean one thing. There's lots of different meanings of it. Again, refer back to your notes for more information. An oxymoron, a phrase consisting of a contradiction of terms. For example, a fair devil. It doesn't make sense to be looking for oxymorons, but especially if you're using a passage-based question, be using and making sure you've got quotes with oxymorons, paradoxes within them. Paradox, self-contradictory statement or state of affairs. I am not what I am, for example. Remember, oxymorons are usually two words placed together, whereas a paradox is more of an idea. But again, they don't literally make sense, but when I think about it, they do. Pathos, which is one of Albro's favourite. Pity evoked by a situation of suffering and helplessness. You want to talk about pathos of which characters, for example, Albro?
Othello, Desdemona, and Cassio.
Yes, certainly Desdemona being the main one, okay? Peripeteia, the sudden reversal of fortune, for example, Cassio's appointment as governor. It's important that you're able to use that sort of language. Poetic justice, due allocation of reward and punishment for virtue and vice respectively. Pun, obviously I use the word a double meaning for humorous or ironic effect. Rhetoric, art of persuasion using emotive language and syntactical devices. A lot of rhetoric. Which characters use a lot of rhetoric, would you say? Which is the main one? Iago, absolutely, yeah. So you want to be using, again, Iago's rhetoric. Rhyming couplet pair, rhyming lines. Romance story of love and heroism deriving from the medieval court and fairy tales. Simile, you should know as well. Soliloquy is a set of speech by a character. Nobody on stage is able to hear it. It's absolutely focused. It's absolutely focused on the. Sorry, I've got Adolfo trying to come in. Soliloquy, the speech is focused for the audience. It's for the audience to express the character's innermost thoughts and feelings and so on. Sources, stories or inspirations from history, mythology and so on. We see a lot of that in Othello. Symbol, an object, a person or an event which represents something more than itself. So for example, the handkerchief is a symbol. In what way is that a symbol? Analyse the symbol of the handkerchief for me, please.
It's a present that Othello gives Desdemona, and yeah, it's.
What does it come to symbolise? What is this actually
the relationship between Othello and Desdemona, and when Desdemona loses it, she basically loses the trust of Othello.
Okay, excellent. And that can obviously and should be developed a lot more if the handkerchief question comes up, okay? Theme and abstract idea are explored in my literary work, distinct from the content. What kind of themes do we have in Othello?
The seven sins, the seven deadly sins.
Okay, yeah. What else? Idea of honesty is a theme, would be a big one. The idea of trust and mistrust would be important themes for it as well. I'll put up more themes on Edmodo for you so you all know, okay? Tragedy, drama or other literary work of a serious nature traditionally concerning men in high positions, with a fatal conclusion for the guilty and some of the innocent, characterised by waste, loss and a fall from power. Absolutely Othello through and through. And finally, verse, language organised according to its rhythmical qualities into regular patterns of metre and set out in lines, okay? You then get onto here, literary concepts, okay? It is absolutely worthwhile going through this, especially ideas of the unities. We looked at them in the Inspector Calls last year. Looking at will and suspension of disbelief, this is really important, how an audience doesn't apply the normal rules of realism when watching drama, but has a poetic faith, basically. They lose themselves into that. The suspension of disbelief is when you know that it's a drama that's being performed, but you get so drawn into it that you feel as if you're almost there. Make sure with these literary concepts that you understand it. It's really, really, really important. You're able to talk about catharsis, for example. Aristotle claimed that tragedy causes catharsis, Greek for purging, in the audience because of the feelings of pity and fear which it evokes. Deus ex machina as well, literally the God from the machine refers to supernatural intervention which resolves a difficult situation. You could analyse possibly Othello in that way as well. Hubris and Nemesis, overreaching of a human who, from pride or presumption, aspires to divine power or status, resulting in a downfall, which is punishment by Nemesis, the goddess of retribution. Machiavelli, an early 16th century political philosophy proposed by Italian Niccolò Machiavelli in his book The Prince, which recommended ruthless self-interest and unethical methods to gain political power. You want to be talking about Iago being a Machiavellian character, obviously. Micro and macrosms, obviously. Renaissance, the big thing, originating in Italy, revival of art and literature under the influence of classical models in the 15th and 16th centuries of Western Europe. Classical models, obviously, most notably being the Greeks, the Greek tragedies, they would use them a lot. Swan song, the legend that mute songs sing once only with haunting pathos immediately prior to their death. So you can talk about a character swan song. Arguably, the Willow song was kind of a swan song to, in a way, we get to really see Desdemona's frustration through our use of it. Seven deadly sins, as Albro mentioned, is according to the medieval Catholic Church, following sins were mortal and led straight to hell. Pride, envy, gluttony, lechery, avarice, wrath, sloth. Many contemporary and later literary works include these sins symbolically or thematically. You could say it's a theme of Othello, as Albro says. All characters suffer from these seven deadly sins in the play, so make sure you're able to understand which one does and so on. Okay, what I recommend now that you do as part of your revision, because you all need to know your literary techniques, how they work, how Shakespeare utilises them to create meaning and effect within the play. What I suggest that you all now do is that you go through, for a start, you have your literary techniques. I can get to it. Your literary terms, literary techniques. I would be, for every single one of these techniques, I would be giving an example from Othello that it applies to, complete with 2 or 3 quotes as well. If you do this, you will have the terminology and the quotes to write a successful essay. There's no reason why you couldn't be up getting C's, possibly even B's, with this sort of language. It's something that you're not doing. Guys, if you don't do it, you're not going to get above an E, possibly a U. You must be using the dramatic concepts and terms that you've been taught here with which to develop and really improve your work, okay? So I would go through spider diagrams. I'd have all these terminologies on a big A3 or big massive sheet of paper. Maybe you want to stick sheets of A3 together to make a massive super spider diagram. You then go through every one of these literary terms, give examples of Othello, what happened, of an example of that term used by Shakespeare in Othello, complete with 2 or 3 quotes and scene and line numbers as well, okay? I would then do exactly the same for your literary concepts, okay? Don't just look at the techniques and think that's enough. Make sure that you're looking at the concepts as well. And again, go through each one of the concepts and link it to a part in Othello that you know it relates to. Make sure you've got lots of quotes, you've got line number, scene number, everything like that as well, and you've got examples. Guys, this is really, really important. Arguably, this is a way to kind of save some of you for your A-level or AS literature. I'm going to be really honest with you. This will save a few of you because you're not using enough quotes, you're not using enough techniques. If you do this as part of your revision, you will now have techniques, you will understand these techniques, you will also have quotes which are examples of these techniques. Which means in the exam, if you do the passage-based question, you've got all that extra knowledge from the rest of the text that you've gone through it and done. This could be the most useful thing you do for AS level literature. Make sure that you do it. I'll put this video, or you're probably watching this video, up on YouTube already. Any questions, ask them below this video. Alvaro, anything to add?
No.
Brilliant. Right, thank you.